Customers want what they ordered in a timely manner. You know what I mean? It's not fine dining. It's pizza. They want what they ordered. They want it hot, fresh, and on time. What's going on, Pizza fam? Welcome back to another episode of the Pizza King podcast. I'm your host, Tyrell Reed. As always, this is Friday. This is our special time now that we've been having so many guests. This is really my only time to really get on the mic and talk. We're going to go a little bit long today because I got some updates. We got some things that have been happening, and I just want to spend a little bit of extra time with you today. So for those that don't know, my partner and I, we sold our pizzeria back in July. Like, we agreed to sell it last year. We listed it in January at the beginning of the year, and we finally closed on the deal in July. So for the last 4.5 months, I have, been trying to find my way out here. And I'm happy to announce today that after 4.5 months or 5 months or however long it's been since we sold, Pizza King is getting back in the game. Back in the game. We found a pizzeria. We have, handled the negotiations, and we will be taking over an existing store at the beginning of 2026. So that's exciting news. And if you follow me like on Facebook, I think that's probably where I kind of put the most stuff out. If you follow me, you've probably been getting some of the hints already just because of some of the questions that I've been asking. And it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm super excited. I'm ready. I can't say I've been bored because I've been really busy with the pod and trying to continue to build this brand, and it's been incredibly rewarding and successful. But I'm also missing the action of being in the game and having a pizzeria and, just having a place, to work on my craft and do all that outside of the house. So with that being said, yes, Tyrell will be taking over the West Shore Pizza location in Valrico, which is not like literally 2 miles from my house. So very excited about that. It's an existing location. It has struggled. Full transparency, this location has struggled over the recent years. There's been, various issues going on with this, including, multiple changes of ownership, changes in leadership, lots of comments from the community about, just the service quality and things like that. And I don't want to make this about what they have done to this point, because the future is bright and I'm excited about taking over. And I know that we can turn the store into a successful business. I'd put out a post on Facebook and, in a few groups and, on my personal page on whether or not you can win the community back. Can you win the community back, taking over a store with a poor reputation? And overwhelmingly, everyone said yes. And listen, I know this already, but I wanted to put it out there just to gauge how the rest of the pizza community felt about these types of opportunities. I've made my entire career on getting into stores that are undervalued and turning them around. Did they all work? No, they didn't all work, but most of them did. And most of them turned around in short order and did very well. So I know that it can work. I know that I have the right plan. And I wanted to actually, since I'm about to go through this process all over again, I thought this would be a great opportunity to just be transparent and share with the community, how I plan to go about turning around a location that's struggling from a sales standpoint, struggling from a service standpoint, all of the different things that go into that. So I'm like, yeah, let's make that content. Let's do it. So we're going to be a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but I thought I'd at least give you the overall, the overview of, what my plan is and how long I think it'll take. I like to go into situations like this with full clarity, full optimism, and then understanding and doing my homework and then rebuilding it from the ground up. Always the same route every single time. Now, the stores don't always need the same things, but what I found is if we follow this same framework and blueprint, we can pretty much recover a store from wherever it is. And whether you having sales problems or you have staffing problems or you have customer service problems or whatever it is, or cleanliness, whatever, if you follow the steps that I'm about to give you now, you can turn your store around too. Even if you've been there and it's been struggling, you can you can take these steps and rebuild from where you are right now too. And I thought that was important to share because even if you're not getting into a new location, you could be struggling where you are. And I have a system that could probably help you. And I'm just gonna, kind of show you what that looks like today. This is the same thing that I've done countless times before. These are the same framework and blueprint that I teach, in our coaching classes and with my private clients. This the same steps. We follow the same blueprint. So with that being said, I'll just kind of go down the list and talk about how I go about turning around a struggling restaurant, or in this situation, a restaurant that has struggled and now is going to be under my control. What's important to understand is that restaurants fail for, a bunch of different reasons. It doesn't always happen all at once. You know what I mean? They don't just fail overnight. They bleed slowly over time, quietly. Food standards start to slip, cash controls start to get a little bit loose. The leaders, they lose focus and they start running on reaction instead of being proactive. And owners wait too long to make change. So, and then you get to this point where it's like, okay, now I need to borrow a bunch of money so I can fix everything at once, or I just got to get rid of it. I can't fix all this. And the reality is, you can't fix everything at once. But if you do things in the right order and fix the right things at the right time, you can save yourself a lot of headache. And that's why we created this sequence. And I didn't create it. I just learned it over time, documented it, and, continue to use it over my career. Simple rules for me. We always fix safety before we fix sales. We fix cash handling. We fix cash before we fix culture, and we fix leadership before we fix growth. And I like to take it and look at it like a 3-month, 12-week process, right? So in 3 months, I should start to see real change from the systems that we put in place. Even if there are already systems in place, we like to start from the ground up, assess, rebuild, and grow from there. Very first week coming in, we always start, really the first 2 weeks it was really all about stabilizing where we are, setting the foundation. Week 1, we focus exclusively on food safety and cleanliness. The goal is simple: protect the guests, protect the business. So it's a full reset. We don't take no shortcuts. We retrain everybody on food safety standards, make sure everybody's got food handler certificates or food safety manager cards. We label everything, we date everything, we clean every single thing. We start, making sure we're doing our temperature checks. We're doing our line checks twice a day. No tolerance. This is the very first standard that we set. And food safety is an easy place to start setting standards because everybody already understands why. There's really never any pushback on pushing cleanliness and safety when it comes to running a restaurant because everyone knows what's at risk here. So we always start with food safety. We spend the first full week just cleaning, resetting standards, retraining everybody on the standards, and then, building from there. Excuse me. Then week 2, I go straight into cash handling and cash management. Just really making sure we lock down practices around cash handling and money, just because that's not a place where we can afford to ever be gray. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta make sure we know that whatever our process is for assigning drawers, our opening and closing procedures, like how do we open the drawer? How do we close the drawer? What are we doing? How do we audit daily our cash processes? Do we do, same day deposits, twice a day deposits? Like, whatever our cash policies are, we lock those in, right then. So week 2, after we clean up everything and everyone feels good, and everyone feels good after you clean up everything, trust me. Then we start to make sure that we address all the cash handling policies and procedures, and we lock those in week 2. You can't let cash slip, even in businesses. And don't think of it as just cash. I mean, like, how we handle transactions, how we handle deposits, how do we close, how do we report it, how do we track it so that we know everything that's happening from a sales standpoint. Don't think just, oh, cash. We don't even take cash. We don't have a lot. No, I mean like sales. How do we take care of our transactions? And then once we get through that, we get into, weeks 3 through 5 is where we start to rebuild the core of the restaurant. Week 3, we start talking about bench and training. Like we start to evaluate everybody. Who's in what role? Let's define our roles. Do we have shift leaders? Do we have trainers? Do we have managers? We start to build that bench and build our depth from that point, 2 deep, 3 deep per role, whatever it is. We start to build some stability there. Week 4, I like to start to kind of split and segment people. So starting from like week 4, week 5 is where I start working with managers on their things while continuing to work with the team on their things. So after we've identified a manager, even if I'm the manager and I have someone that I've identified through that training and bench phase, we start to work on what those weekly and daily routines look like. So you can't have a GM that is spending their entire week just reacting to the fires, just putting out fires, because that's not leadership. So if you're in that role and you're just reacting all week, you're going to miss out on your admin time. You're going to rush when it's time to do the schedule. You're going to half-ass do your food order or your inventory because there's just not enough time to do all the things. So we need to install some structure. And this is the week that we start to do it. We establish all the routines. We set fixed admin time. If it's, Monday from 8 to 12 or whatever it is, or if it's every day we're going to spend an hour doing admin, we start to set our routine around it. What's our inventory day? How are we handling what's our inventory? What's our ordering cadence? All of these things start to get scheduled. So we can establish a rhythm for the leadership. And then the store starts to calm down a little bit. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm starting to work with the team and their things. So like, what are the daily routines with the team? So you establish routines for the managers, but then we also have to start establishing rhythm and routine for the team. And then week 5 is where we really start to see the split. Week 5, you're going to see me working, and I'm going to document all of this too. You'll see me, and I'll talk about it through all the various channels, maybe blog posts or something, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. But as we get into weeks 5, 6, all of this, I'm starting to see, all right, team, we're working on products, managers, we're working on, understanding the financials and things like that. So with the team, all right, we're super focused on specs. All right, making sure that we're executing everything properly. This is where, accuracy starts to matter, like understanding the expectations. And look, our business is very simple. Customers want what they ordered in a timely manner and, hot. If they want it hot, accurate, and on time. You know what I mean? We don't have it's not fine dining. It's pizza. They want what they ordered. They want it hot, fresh, and on time. It's very simple. Understanding what the setting standards on specs, making sure we understand what that means. And we really start to work through and coach on all of those things. But at the same time, I'm working with leadership on the things that they need to be focused on. So I'm teaching a manager, all right, this is how we work through P&L. We start talking about financial responsibility at that point. Profit and loss. How are we managing the schedule? How are we managing labor every day? Do we understand what food cost looks like? This is where we start to plant those seeds on all of those things. How do we, what's our weekly review going to look like with numbers? We start establishing the rhythm on those things, because from there, we start to track results, and then we can really improve our decision-making process by tracking results and not just gut feelings in the store, or not just reacting to things. We start tying all of our decisions to whether or not it's going to be to the benefit or to the detriment of the business. So as we move past, the product discussions and, continuing to build on our financial responsibility with the leadership team, then we start talking about, all right, how do we rebuilt our core, right? Our team understands what products look like, how things should be put together, what the end result looks like. Now we start tying it all into resetting the experience for the guest, like talking about how do we properly serve the guest. So from a team standpoint, remember, we're segmenting at this point. So from a team standpoint, we set the service standards, like how do we greet the customers? How do we answer the phone? How do we resolve issues? How do we answer those questions? And from a leadership standpoint, we talk about conflict resolution. How do we handle guest complaints? Install the Blast system. I love the Blast. This is from my fuzzy days, but Blast was a iteration of the last system. Was listen, apologize, solve, and thank. But we added a B to it for Blast, which is believe, listen, apologize, solve, and thank. So we're not here to argue over pizzas. We're here to push the experience forward, go above and beyond, fix things, and follow up. So we don't have to guess. We measure our service. We start to track what that looks like. And look, if you don't think there's a measurement on service, go look at your Google reviews. Go look at your Yelp rating. Go look at, wherever your TripAdvisor, wherever you're tracking it, and ask. One of the things I used to do was TripAdvisor does a good job of ranking experiences or ranking places in a certain area. And I remember I was running a restaurant in Riverview at the time, which is a small town outside of Tampa. We pulled it and we were like the 27th ranked pizzeria on TripAdvisor in Riverview. And I challenged the team. I said, do you think, first of all, I didn't even know there were 27 pizzerias in Riverview. And do you think we're the 20th best one? And they were offended. So then it helped us understand that we have to raise our standards. We had to start going after our 5-star reviews. We had to start treating our guests even better. Little things like that where we can challenge and push the agenda forward. So think about that. Week 7 becomes, really more about just stewardship, leadership development. This is where we, start to have weekly one-on-ones. We set and clear ownership of different tasks and different roles. We reset our core. We understand our food safety standards. We have our daily and weekly routines down. We can really start to give more ownership, to our junior leaders, start having more coaching conversations versus, rescuing them every situation. We really start to develop people at this point. So that's what I'm saying. By week 7, week 8, you're shifting from manager to coach, and you're letting leaders solve problems, and you're then talking through, the results at that point. Really letting your managers execute things and then have conversations. So then beyond that, once we get to like week 8, 2 months in, now we're starting to talk about how we start to really improve our processes. This is where we push speed and we push consistency. I love to, after we got a couple of months under our belt, everyone understands the system, everyone's comfortable. This is where we start to go and attack, all the chaos. I push back a house optimization. I really like to push that back. Some folks like to start with, all right, let's change. This doesn't work in the kitchen. No, I think, in my opinion, you get the team comfortable, and then you build your system, you have your processes, and then you work together on how to optimize those processes. So I love doing, waiting a couple of months before we do a back of house optimization. So now we start, okay, well, how can we take a few steps out of this? How do we improve our kitchen organization? How should the walk-in be set up? How should our dry storage work? We start to work together on those things because you have people who now can think for themselves, can address situations, and you're already having one-on-one conversations and weekly follow-ups. Now we start to optimize. So once you start to remove things like that, you're going to get faster and you're going to get better. And that's the goal, right? So weeks 8, 9, 10 in that range, focusing fully on just optimizing and having conversations. Then we start talking about, pushing your speed through, like setting some standards around speed and around excellence so that you continue to really serve the customer the very best way. Then, before 2-3 months in, we're not even talking about ticking times. We're not talking about, speed during the rush or, any accountability around speed. At this point, we really just push accuracy. We want to do it right. And then we'll talk about doing it fast. You get better. So, as the pressure builds, and at this point, your sales are probably starting to creep up, the standards matter even more. So you can have those conversations. And then lastly, I like to round it out with, the part that most people forget, which is competition and recognition. So We push friendly competition at each station, like who's the fastest pizza maker, who's the most accurate order taker, who can roll the dough balls the fastest, or little competitions like that push healthy camaraderie and healthy engagement, and pushes the team to just raise their standards a little bit more and a little bit better. So I'll wait a couple of months, we let everybody get comfortable with their roles. We start optimizing, we're building sales, we got systems in place, and now we start setting some standards around who's this and who's that. And it's not, to say someone's not good enough, but it's to encourage folks to say, all right, well, I can do that too, or I can make 3 pizzas faster, or I can roll 3 dough balls faster, or I can fold, a box folding competition, or whatever it is. We start to install some competitiveness, and then recognition from that. And not that we only recognize the winners. We try to really do our best to recognize everybody, but these give you easy ways to start recognizing people. So yeah, that's kind of my plan, for 12, 13 weeks of turnaround time. And like I said, I'll document all of this. I know this is, fast to run through in 20 minutes here, but I wanted to kind of I have a whole outline of how I like to do it, but it would be too long for me to kind of read through all of it. So I just gave you from 10,000 feet. But I'm telling you, turnarounds aren't flashy. They're actually boring. But the boring stuff is what works. You know what I mean? It requires presence. It requires consistency. It requires follow through. So in 12 weeks, 14 weeks, you follow the plan, you don't take shortcuts, you can rebuild your store from wherever it is. So if you're struggling, go back to week 1. If you want this, I'll send it to you. I'll send you my outline. Just email me and I'll send it to you, info@tyrellreed.com. But listen, if your store is struggling, go back to week 1. Start doing it. Build your foundation. You can reset your store. I've done it so many times, and so many other people have done it too, following very similar paths. You can stay, if you start with your foundation, you stay disciplined, and you finish strong, you can solve whatever issue is holding your restaurant back. So that's all I have for you today. Way longer than 5 minutes, but I appreciate each one of you rocking with me. Listen, if you ever find yourself in Valrico, Florida, come find me. I'll be posting very soon. I'm going to we'll set up a new Instagram page and Facebook page, and, all of that. And obviously I'll be talking about it a whole lot here on the podcast. So thank you everybody for your support. We will see you next week. Have a good one. Peace.